Well, hello there, YouTube. So it is about 7:15 on a Tuesday evening. Remember, around 7:15 on Tuesday and 7:15 on Thursday, I will be doing these live painting sessions on YouTube. So today we're going to get into the fine details of this portrait. And remember, this is a section of a larger painting. So if I zoom out, you'll be able to see the rest of it. And I'm going to go over some of the materials that I like to use when I enter this stage of a painting, because it does kind of change from time to time. So again, this is a larger painting. As you saw, we painted in the drapery and stuff in this last time. So if you missed that, that was the previous stream. So that's the drapery, the shoulder, the hand, and today, as you requested, we are going to continue the fine details of the face. So I had two options. One was I was going to go in with the background and start putting some stuff in the background, or go and refine the face. So today we're going to refine the face, and I like to call this stage the Impossible Subtleties with my students. Not that it's impossible, but it is kind of a little bit difficult. So a couple things that I need to go over first. Number one, the colors that you're going to see here are going to look different than the colors that you're going to see there. This is a different surface. This is a painting. It looks different than a piece of wood. So a color on a piece of wood does not look the same as a color on a painting. So they are not going to look exactly the same. The next thing is that the camera is at an angle with respect to the painting. That is so that I can paint without having a camera in front of my face. And the next is that should be it. I should be able to get into painting now. So we've got some comments already. So hey Menno, welcome. Hey Leonie, welcome. Thanks for watching from Australia. Hey Brian Wong and David Bonnet, hope all of you are doing all right. I'm gonna use some sables today, and so these are size 4 cat's tongue sable brushes. Now before you go crazy and think that these are made from cat's tongues, these are not made from cat's tongues. These are sable brushes, pure red sable brushes by the brand Silver Brush. That should be listed in the description box of this video. Also, we've got some size 2, which is probably what we're going to start off with. We'll see. Size 2 filbert Silver Brush Grand Prix brushes. I like to use size 2 and size 4. We've also got from the same Sable brush type. So this is a size 5 pure red Sable round brush. So this is going to be for those nice little details that we're going to go into that. The next thing is going to be the medium. We are going to keep the same medium that we used in the previous layer because this painting does not have that many layers. It's still fairly young in its development. So I'm going to use what you've seen me use before, which I don't know if it shows up, Neo-Megilp. So Neo-Megilp is a fast dryer. It is not a super fast dryer, so it's not like using Liquin or something like that. And I tend to put it right on the edge of my palette here. There's some old medium there from like I don't know how many weeks ago. It's kind of old and crusty, but it still tends to work fine, even if it's got like a little bit of dryness to it. It works just fine. So before I get started, I'm going to oil out only certain sections of the painting that I'm going to work on. So let's see here. Hey Stephanie Thompson, hello there. How's it going, Roman? Thanks for watching from Mexico. Let's see here. Hey Montana, thanks for watching from South Korea. Let me actually adjust my I've got my comments on an iPad that is on an easel. It's on a French easel here, so I'm just adjusting it. Alright, so I'm going to add a bit of oil, or should I say medium, to what are we going to start with? Let's start with the nose. And yes, the photo reference is not zoomed into the face. because I don't want you to base what this is going to look like off of a reference, because the reference is a mere suggestion for the painting. So instead I want to show you that it doesn't quite matter if you know, likeness is perfect or anything like that. So obviously we did try to go after likeness earlier in this painting, but at this point on it's more about describing and less about you know, trying to copy something. It's never about copying something. So what sections am I going to work on for now? Probably this one. This little section here. A little bit of medium, not too much. So I'm going to start off with this color, which is too pink at the moment. I definitely need to adjust it. Let's see, I'm going to start off with, let's say, Alizarin Permanent Flake White. And let's make it a little more violet-ish. I'd like to use a weak blue. So these are not very subtle colors. And I know you can't see much of it on the palette. I can barely see much of it. It's almost the same value as the palette. A little bit of Viridian. So the goal is to get a very weird Cadmium Red. Now the goal is to get a very weird pinkish color. And of course I'm going to let this be transparent. So as you see, it's just about the same value as the palette. So I think, did I miss a question here? I don't think I did. Oh, there we go. From Minnow, to be able to mix the paint to the desired color is very important. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take some testing. So for example, like, what does this look like? Just one little section. And it's almost exactly what I had before. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's different. I can't quite describe it. It's an odd color. It's almost more of a pinkish gold. So Indian yellow, lead tin yellow. These give me more of that goldish color. Getting a little closer. This is also just a nice spot to warm up in. You don't want to just go for glory and start to refine things right away. Kind of like a sport of some sort, like you know, if you're gonna play a sport, you're gonna probably warm up right before you go and try to do something crazy. So this is definitely a warm up. After all, I haven't even touched this painting in, like, I guess what, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, about like 5 days. Hey, Michael Jones. So for anyone that may be new to these streams, I encourage the viewers to enter into dialogue that is art related. I just made this a little darker and a little more pink. So dialogue that is art related. So now I'm going to start to introduce some questions, and I encourage you, the viewer, to participate and ask any questions that you think that the audience could talk about in a very productive and educational way. So my first question is going to be a simple one, and it's going to be a very trivial one. What question would you like to ask any old master painter in history and answer in two parts. One, the question, and two, the old master. So who would you want to ask what question? This is a two-part question for you. Not a difficult one, but definitely something that is very inspiring in thought. I'm going to answer mine, and that's going to be Rembrandt. What would I ask Rembrandt? I want to ask Rembrandt what is exactly on his palette, because I'm still somewhat always confused about what colors he used. Sometimes he did have blues, other times it looked just like Zorn palette. So if I could just ask him to describe his palette to me, I would totally want to know. I would even go so far as to want to ask Rembrandt about his materials too. Like, we know that he used certain materials like lead white and linen and turpentine and things like that, but just materials for Rembrandt would be great. Now I'm starting to add heavier, thicker paint. Okay, we're getting more and more subtle. So from Leon de Mature, I gotta look this one up. How he got so much character in his faces. That's a tough one. That would be a very tough question to answer, and that's an excellent question. If someone asked me that, I would say I have no idea. I'm sure that the artist would. Very good question. Okay, so that's closer now, and obviously there's a plane change here that I have yet to describe. A little closer towards the orangey yellow. So just in this little section here, I'll probably retouch the shadow too. So it's just as important to be able to work in general with big shapes and large masses and big brushes and sweeping marks and stuff. It's just as important to do that as it is to get into the little tiny minutia. This right here is the minutia. And with my students, I call this the impossible subtleties, not because it's impossible, but it is very difficult to figure out where to go. The impossible subtleties is a stage that I describe to my students such that it's not obvious where to go next in the painting. And this is an area where you really do learn because you explore. You push past your comfort zones in painting. This only happens when you spend an extended amount of time working on a painting. Let's do some stuff for the shadow. So Roman, it would be nice if I could read out what you have written. My guess is going to be that that you like the light, the way the light is building. So I'm glad that you like how the light is building. And it's all about the colors and the values in relation to one another. And I'm still pushing that, really. So for Minnow, I would love to be in the city of Delft during the time of Vermeer and speak with him. So Vermeer is your chosen artist that you would like to ask a question, but what question would you like to ask Vermeer? I think everyone would want to ask Vermeer how he started his paintings, because there's a lot of speculation about that one. I'm mixing up a very basic brown, going with green and red and purple. And it looks almost the same as what shadow tone is already there. I'm not trying to add anything different to it. I'm just trying to basically remix it so that I can work around it. Now this section definitely has to change, get a little darker. Gotta make sure my palette doesn't fall off. Menno, nothing in particular, just to know him and chat a bit. Well, that's good. That's valid too. I mean, I would definitely like to get to know, like, Sargent, for example. He seemed like a very mysterious character. So from Roman, I also like the Master Alfrenov's technique, spatula, like a palette knife, I presume. I do like working with palette knife, but mainly for color studies. I do admire artists that can utilize a palette knife. So thanks for sharing. This is why I've taken black off of my palette. So every one of my values, every one of my dark colors is going to be some kind of color. So it's not going to be just a generic dark blue. Because black is blue, actually. Ivory black is a dark, just a really dark and not very chromatic blue, which is why it's a nice blue to use in the Zorn palette. Hey W, oh thank you. Remember everyone watching I began with a two-part question for everyone. One, what question would you ask your favorite old master from the past? And two, who would that favorite old master be? You can also elaborate into why you would ask the question. Now we're going to start to put some stuff in for the eye. Gotta make sure that the axis is correct. a little high. I'm gonna have to lower that. That was a little high. Alright, so remember everyone, last week I did mention that I don't think as many people are interested in the fine details of a painting, so let's see if there will be as many people interested in this. This is going to be slow. It's not going to be as fast-paced as the beginning of a painting. It's just a rolled up piece of paper towel. Should probably use gloves for that, but oh well. I forgot. And truth be told, in the darks I didn't really use lead white anyway, or lead anything. So it should be fine. Okay, so now we're gonna switch into a small brush. And I don't usually like to start with a small brush. I like to have some paint already mixed up on here before I get into a small brush. This is the size 5 round Sable. Silver brush, pure red Sable. Remember, there's a playlist of my live streams, my most recent ones, that should be accessible to the public. So if you're really bored with this one and you want to see how this one started, or you're just curious about how this one started, definitely check out the playlist. So, Montana Slim, Franz Halls, what is your best advice to painting loose and finishing, fighting against painting too much detail? That's a good one. Good one to ask Franz Halls. He did have a very interesting biography. I'm not sure of the details, so I'm not going to explain any of the details if I'm not sure, but if I'm correct in Franz Halls, there might be some kind of reason for the looseness of his paintings, just based on his lifestyle. But it's all speculative. He seemed to have been a really outgoing outgoing personality. Which is rare. It's a rare thing for painters, really. I guess most of us just like to sit and or stand and paint alone for hours. And thanks for that comment, Montana. Alright, so let's add in another question. This time it won't be from me. So now is your turn those of you that are watching this live at the moment. If you have any questions that you want to type out or comments that you think would engage everyone into a very educational dialogue about art, feel free to post your question or comment here. I'm going to mix up a very dark gray. Always be mindful of the value of the sclera. The white of the eye is not white, usually some kind of mid-tone. In this case, it's a very dark mid-tone, it's in the shadow. Now that would be way too light. Almost forgot my fan brush. This is a very fun yet difficult stage in a painting. Like I said, impossible subtleties. Not always obvious what to do next. Hey Minnow, briefly explain. You would like me to briefly explain what I mean with values? Yeah, certainly. Values. A value is just a lightness or darkness of a given shape or object. For example, this value, this whole thing is one plane. Its value is very light. So this could be like, say, value number 1. The one next to the nose is slightly darker, though it's very light. So this would be, say, value number 2. Since this value is as close to this value as, I mean, it's super close, like this one to this one. These can both just be 1, these. And this value can be pretty much the same as this one. So these are both value 2, but this value here is definitely darker, much darker than this one. So this can be value 3, and this value can probably be found here. So that would be value 3, that would be value 3. Right up here on the forehead, that would be value 3. This would be value 3. So all of those would be value 3. Also on the bottom of the nose, that could be value 3 as well. And then even on the side of the eye, that could be value 3. This could be value 3 underneath of the eye. But then once we get into the shadow, so right here and here, so right here and here, that's pretty dark, and that can be value 4. So 4 different values. That shadow tone value you can find here, here, and here, all over the place. And then value 5 would be these darker darks, these darkest darks that I'm adding. And the sclera is not value 5. The sclera is actually value 4, but a different color. So it's the same value, but it's a different color. It's more of a blue. and this is more of a brownish green. So hopefully that was a decent explanation for values in this sense. Hey Nikki, oh, thank you. And there's all kinds of in-betweens, like so like this can be slightly lighter than this, I mean ever so slightly, and it's really just a color change. Not too much of a value change. And for example, that's pushing it. Very much pushing it. Now in here, I'm not going to leave it like a black hole, you know, like a space of infinite density in the universe. So what I got to do is add color to it. The photo reference makes that just look dark. So a lot of times when people work mainly from photo references and they don't work from life enough, they will tend to paint shadows like that, just completely dark with the absence of any kind of color. That's not what we want to do. We want to add color because everything is color. So we have to impose it on there, even if it's not readily visible in the reference. Her eyes are a dark bluish green. You may not even see this. Difficult to tell on the camera. Hey Minnow, no problem. You're welcome. Okay, so now the shadow here is kind of like a bluish tint. And still, it went a little dark. Ultramarine to the rescue. I'm going to dull it down with burnt sienna. Remember, I already added medium to this, so it is not going to be I don't need to add any extra medium. It's not going to be too thick. Now for the pupil. Gonna have to mix the darkest dark possible. So Dioxazine purple, Alizarin. And it's not going to be like jet black or anything like that. It's going to have a color to it. Indian yellow. I'll throw in some medium because I do need to thin this out more. And this is going to be almost like an ink line, a little inky dot for the pupil. And it might be in the wrong spot. And I really can't see the pupil in the reference. Hey Bernice, welcome. We're just continuing to work on this painting today. So Bernice, in these streams, I am going to be just working on a painting, ideally a big painting. So this one is, it is a larger painting. So this face here that we're adding detail to is just a small portion of a much larger painting. So last time we worked on the drapery, so the clothing down here is what we worked on last time. That was on Thursday. Now sometimes when I do this, my camera tends to disconnect from the HDMI cable, so If the screen ever goes dark while I'm doing this, everyone, I didn't leave. It's just my cables doing their thing. Remember, everyone, the camera is at an angle with respect to the painting. Okay, this part is a struggle for me because I can't quite see on the reference what this would look like. So I'm going to have to go off of my instincts here. That's the problem when you're working from photo references. If you don't have experience working from nature and you just paint it as you see it, it's going to look like you painted it from a picture. There we go, a little bit of light under there. Okay, so next, the sclera. There's a bit too much of it showing. So in these fine detail stages in a painting, not a lot happens in a very long period of time. Usually on YouTube, you want a lot to happen in a short amount of time, which is why things like TikTok have been invented, because people don't have patience. So if you're interested in how I do this, how I take paintings further and further along, please share the word of these streams, because I tend to have a difficult time having people interested in this stage. Let me increase the light sensitivity for you so you can kind of see what I'm doing better. And I can work on one edge like this. This little edge, I can work on that for like 30 minutes. It's rare that you will see this on YouTube. I think, I don't know, but typically for an artist YouTuber, it's not a good idea to show the slow stuff, but I want to show you the slow stuff, basically. What it takes to really build a painting, especially, you know, I'm not like a savant at painting. Like I'm not some genius that can just come up with the right shapes all the time. Like I really have to work for it, and this is how I work for it. Hey, bean pot. Now I'm going to mix up a dark reddish color surrounding the dark of the eyelid. And I like to mix into old puddles. Hey, Leonie. Good, I'm glad this is really helpful. This has to be the most difficult spot for me in the painting. Just so awkward. An eye in the shadow. Now, the saying less is more is usually very helpful in the shadows. You can go to town on the eye and the light, but the eye and the shadow, you need just enough for it to read. You don't want it to be too contrasty. You can put as many details as you want in the shadow. I don't mean that you don't have to develop it, but you don't want it to be too contrasty. So the values are very compressed in the shadows. Hey Jim Adams, watching but being quiet tonight. That's okay. Hey Hamed. Right now, so now the surrounding values underneath of the eye, they are slightly darker. Probably slightly more green. Something about like that. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, the side of the nose shouldn't be that sharp. So there's an edge there that I've got to work for. So I actually mix values. I mix colors for the edges, especially these more complicated ones. And the color mixing becomes more or less intuitive. The more you study color, the more you paint. I don't really have to think much about when I'm mixing. Like I said, I always say keep your colors on your palette consistent. Don't just change your color palette for portrait and then change it one day for landscape. Keep it consistent because it becomes like muscle memory. Hey, yes, thanks for watching. You have no idea how this got into your recommended. Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for your kind words there. I'm glad that you liked the stream, and I'm glad that YouTube recommended you here. That's good. YouTube's doing its thing. You're welcome on any stream. And I do these streams every Tuesday and Thursday around 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To be more specific, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See that edge there? That's very, very tricky. Very subtle edge. Sometimes you want to look at it in isolation. So Menno, I remember saying the eyes are the mirror of the soul. Great if you can catch that also in a painting. Yeah, it's a bit ambitious for me to try to capture the soul in a painting, but it's something to try. Oh, next question for everyone. Seems like the comments are a little quiet today. Type your favorite art quote. What's your favorite art quote? And of course, who is the quote attributed to? This is a common one. We tend to always use this one, but I like seeing, reading everyone's different answers. I like Rembrandt's quote. I put this at the end of a YouTube video a while ago. Choose only one master, nature. And Rembrandt was referring to just trying to be as genuine as possible with painting what you see. I suppose that's what he meant. Hey Barbara, welcome to the stream. Excellent job with your paintings that you sent to me, by the way, in the virtual classroom. So you're not working on her, but just listening helps me look harder for details and stay patient. That's a good word there, patience. And you build your patience for this stage. The more you do it, the more you build your patience for it. I remember in the past I was so impatient. I didn't even want to work on a face more than like a week. I was so impatient. I was also trying to create a new YouTube video of a face like every week. Imagine that. That's like way too quick. Mr. Pianoli, a painting is never finished but abandoned. Da Vinci said that. I was trying to figure out. I knew that quote, but I didn't know who said it. I should have looked it up, but good. Now I'll remember. Painting is never finished, only abandoned. I feel that. Yeah, if Da Vinci was here, I'd be nodding my head. I'd be like, yep, I understand what you mean. It's a very meaningful quote because you can always do more. There's no such thing as overworking a painting. There's only being too attached to it. Now I'm switching to a cat's tongue. Remember, it's not made from cat's tongues, but the shape of it is round on the bottom. No, it's a filbert on the bottom. It looks like a filbert on the bottom, or a flat. And it's pointy, like a very pointy brush on the top, shaped like a cat's tongue. So from David Bonnet, I'd like to speak with H.J. Kennedy and ask him about the clothing in the painting, the kiss. Gotta look that one up too. Of course, we know this quote, David. We don't make mistakes, just happy accidents. But trust me, I make mistakes that are not happy accidents in painting. I wish that was always true. Yeah, that's definitely a Bob Ross quote. Mr. Pianoli, I feel it every time I paint too. Yeah, definitely. You know, there's no such thing as overworking a painting. You only overwork yourself. In the sense that if you get too committed to a painting, it's kind of odd to word it that way, but if you get too attached to your painting, you don't see it clearly. And the more you look into it, the less you see it clarity, the more and more you will feel like you're overworking your painting. But there is no such thing as overworking it. People tend to think that it's a very linear process and that the painting just happens because we follow all the steps, but it's not true. It's always a work in progress. Now that was a magical moment there. That just came to life, like this little section of the nose. Do you see it? You see the difference between this part of the nose and say like this area of the face? That took me probably like 30 minutes or 40 minutes, I don't know, just to get this little section to do its thing. Hey Kathy. Oh, no worries, no worries. So Jim Adams, painting or drawing hands is easy. The quote is from nobody. That's a good one. Definitely, I don't think anyone would say that. Whoops. That was way too light. So see how I'm just mixing into the old puddles? In fact, I didn't even oil this part out. Whoops. Oh well. Okay. So now this edge is going to need some refinement. More of a pinkish. Go with Perelyne Red. Really wonderful red. Just so darn slow drying. The fiery red. It's almost like a weird pinkish orangey red. Perylene Red. Incredibly slow dryer. There's going to be a slight off pink. Mr. Pianoli, wasn't there a famous painter who hated painting hands? So he always left them out of portraits. I forgot his name. That's a good one. I don't know the answer to that one. Most portrait painters I know have painted hands pretty well. I'm wondering if it's Velasquez. I don't see too many hands in his. I doubt it's Velasquez. He could probably paint anything. Ooh, very challenging edge here. Not an easy edge. This edge here. Now remember, this is at an angle, so the more realistic this will look, the more naturalistic it'll look, the more obvious that line, or that, excuse me, that camera distortion is going to be. and just barely touching the edge. And we might only just get the nose finished today. I don't even know. A lot of stuff. So this gets a little less pink, closer towards the yellow. Hey you gang, welcome to the stream. So Jim Adams, you remember that from class but don't remember who. Who was the painter that hated painting hands so much that always left them out? I'm thinking almost Monet, but that's just because he mainly painted landscapes. Wasn't Sargent, because we know Sargent in those hands. Wasn't Bouguereau. Wasn't Vermeer. This is kind of like a weird lavender color for this edge. A lot of these decisions are just instinct. I mean, yes, I know that there should be an edge turning here, because it wouldn't just be flat and then chop. It would have an edge. But the colors that I use, the values that I use, is just all instinctual. And you build your instinct for these things. Was it Peter Lely? Gotta look it up. I'm not sure. I would look it up myself, but I can't. That's probably one I'm gonna look up for sure. There we go. That's the smoothness of the nose that I want. Really had to battle for this little section here. Emmanuel, oh, same thing. Can't look it up on Google either. Mr. Pianoli, I think he had his assistants paint the hands. This is serious. Like somebody really didn't paint hands. Alright, now we're going to work the structure of the nose. And I think I'll just use the pointy brush, this round brush. Work some of these middle planes out first. I thought it was quite hilarious that there was an art movement called the Swagger movement. Well, those of you that are, grew up around the time that I did, possibly in the 90s, kind of funny to hear an art term called swagger, the Swagger movement. And I think it had to do with like or like Victorian era paintings or painters, like I don't know, like painting the rich and famous like Sargent did. Bottom of the bulb of the nose. Oh no, here we go. That comment, kind of a dangerous territory. So we do not want to talk about definitely things like religion on here. May have to take this one out. Sorry. Yeah. Oops. No hard feeling, Judah. It's just I can't have anything on here that's controversial in any means, like religion. But I'm sure you're an awesome person, so I'm not going to do anything other than just remove the comment. But if you want to talk about art stuff and things relating to painting, that's perfectly fine. No hard feelings. I'm sure you are an awesome person. Just trying to do what you think is right. Alright, so there is a light plane, a little baby plane, a little child of a plane. Infinitesimal, I can't even say the word right now. Tiny plane. That's what I get for trying to use calculus terms. So every time you add new information, you introduce a new awkward stage. So that's kind of happening with the nose here because I gotta correct that the wing, the dark of the wing of the nose for sure. So I'm going for a really strong dark. So this is Alizarin Permanent and Viridian. Add bits of Perelyne Red. So Menno, do you keep on painting one painting at a time to finish, or do you sometimes switch from paintings? Oh, I switch around from paintings all the time. I was working on a different painting just earlier today, and before that I was working on a different painting. So I've always got like 3 or 4 paintings going on at the same time. Not even counting like paintings I'm doing as demonstrations for students. So a lot of different paintings at a time. Sometimes I'll put a painting aside for weeks before returning to it. Okay, so things that are very long, like this, they're gonna look different. I tell you right now, looking at this, This looks closer to what I'm observing in the reference, but it looks very weird in the camera because of the distortion. Let's see here. So Jim Adams, are we thinking about Chelly not being good at painting feet? I don't think most of us are. Definitely not me. Feet, I think, are much more difficult than hands. So yeah, Menno, I do work on many different paintings in between. So David, if the world really looks like that, I will paint no more. That's a good one. That's like, that goes in my soul. I don't paint the world for what it is. I paint it for what it could be, I think. I really tried to paint the world for what it is. I would probably not be okay. Hey, Jim Adams, Mandela effect strikes again. Not sure if I catch that reference. I mean, I know who Nelson Mandela is, but not sure. Oh yeah, Mr. Pianoli. Yeah, it's good to have multiple paintings also to not just feel like, like getting bored of the same painting. Totally true. These planes are just easy does it. So, from Barbara Somerville, what is your favorite subject to paint? You mean like my favorite model or favorite type of thing to paint, like subject? I think for me, my favorite subject to paint is people. I really love painting people. Like portraits of people in environments is my favorite. Like this model is gonna have like a picture frame behind her and maybe some flowers surrounding her or something like that. So like people in environments is my favorite. I don't have a particular favorite person to paint. I just paint whoever will pose for me. I mean, ideally, self-portraits should always be our favorite, but it's not my favorite. I think for me, painting my wife is she's my favorite person to paint. But it's difficult for me to get her to pose. So Mr. Pianoli, also as you said before, if you look at the same painting for too long, you stop seeing it. Having multiple paintings to work on helps keep the eyes fresh. Yes, for certain. Yeah, have as many paintings going on as you can. For that reason, that's one of the reasons. If you keep working on the same thing from time to time, like all the time, I mean, if you keep working on the same thing, you're definitely gonna, as you said, stop seeing it and you get too attached. That's usually where we run into trouble. Hey Ellen, people and environments also. Yeah, you're doing great. Your Vermeer project. Now this edge, there's no way I can leave that sharp. In Montana, I'm not trying to be that smart. My wife is, I think, one of the favorite people for me to paint. And I'm saying that just because she doesn't really watch my YouTube videos. I mean, she's got so much on her plate. Like, I say that because I know she's really not watching, so. But I can see where you would think that I was trying to be smart, but I'm not. Mr. Pianelli, I think Titian would start a painting to put it away for years before returning to it, and would glaze a painting 60 or 70 times. Could be, I'm not sure, but that would explain probably why a lot of his paintings didn't exist later on. But I think it was also the materials for Titian. But back then, oil painting was like very new. So this is tough. There's a very tricky value here that's just making things very difficult for me. Oh, thanks, Montana Slim. I appreciate that. Overall, this nose is not a simple one. And I'm going to rotate it once I get the wing of the nose correct. I'm going to rotate it so you can see just how distorted it looks on the camera. So I'm going to transition into a slightly more greenish color underneath the nose. contrast the pink surrounding the nose. And I probably will also do that with the mouth whenever I get to it. Probably won't be today. See, at this point I'm kind of frozen. So I may paint something and then stand back and see it's completely wrong. Won't know what's wrong with it until I work on around it and then come back to it and say, oh, okay, that's what it is. Thanks, Mr. Pianoli. Thanks, Menno. So the surrounding values are just as important as the value that you're placing down. Everything around the nose plays a part for the nose. Always make sure your highlights have a shape. Make sure they're not just a dot. How far away is my camera from the canvas from Jim Adams? They're actually pretty close to each other because I have to get this camera close, which is partly why there's so much distortion. Let me see. So it's about 30 inches away. 30 inches away, not that far. Hey, Mr. Pianoli. Oh, good. I'm glad you like the terminology, impossible subtleties. And I can be at this stage for a while, like a long time, in the online classes. And I do my best to guide students through this stage because it's difficult. So I guide them through the images of their projects that they send me. Thanks, Menno. You know, one of my favorite quotes, art quotes, comes from my one of my teachers named Karen Warshall. So pay attention because it's a play on words. So my teacher would say, if it looks wrong, it's probably wrong. Now, if it looks right, it's probably wrong. That's one of my favorite quotes from Karen Warshall, a painter based in Baltimore. Oh, thanks, Montana. Yeah, it takes a while. And I'm surprised I even got this far, to be honest. I mean, just this section here could have taken me the whole 2 hours. Or, I guess we're on here for just under 2 hours. I'm glad you liked the quote. It's a little depressing of a quote, but it's more of a funny one. It's a funny one that's supposed to get you to try harder and harder. This nose really made me have to think. But yes, again, following that reasoning, if it looks right, probably still wrong. Another quote from one of my teachers is don't lose the painting for the portrait, or don't lose the painting for the likeness. So my teacher would say that he would try so hard to get the likeness, and he would get the likeness perfectly, but then the painting just looks so clinical. I think that's how he described it. Yep, definitely, Minnow. Even in a Bouguereau, as crazy as it is to say, even with Bouguereau, there's probably room for improvement. Try telling that to him. Yeah, impossible. It seems. But in theory, there's always room for improvement. Unless it's Rembrandt we're talking about. Hey, Barbara, you find that you always have to be ready to make corrections, and that's true. Making corrections is a big part of it all. Like I said, it's not a very linear process. I mean, if you're watching like a bunch of YouTube videos and it all seems like it comes together seamlessly and the painter always knows what to do, that's not true. That's edited. And even if it's not edited, that's years of experience. And even then, it's always a push and pull. Never linear. I think if it were linear, it'd be the most boring thing in the world. Oh, thank you, Barbara. Alright, let's throw on some highlights here. And I'm going to turn the painting so you can see it without the distortion. And then I'm going to keep painting, I think. I have time. Yeah, I've got like 20 minutes. Try not to make the highlights all the same color. So I'm going in with lead tin yellow here. Remember, make sure the highlight's not just a dot. Hey Montana, you like to say adjustments, it's easier on your ego. Well, that's good. Adjustments. Always gotta make adjustments. What a nose that is to paint. But every nose is special, just like every face is special. I mean, everyone is different, right? Let's change this. Hopefully I don't disconnect anything. Okay. Isn't that wild? Now you're seeing that the nose is not just at some weird angle like it looks in the camera when it's at that angle. I'm gonna turn it back to the normal, I guess, position where I'm painting. You can see just how much it changes. Look at that. The nose just changes right away. But yeah, I have to paint with it like this, otherwise, you know, I can't paint with a camera in front of my face. Alright, so I'm thinking with the 20 minutes or so I have left, I'd rather work here, this section here. The mouth, more or less, I can push it around and change it without too much trouble. The mouth is always an area in the painting where it's the most lenient. It's easier, I guess, so to speak, than everything else. And by mouth, I mean the lips. Surrounding jaws, the surrounding jaw is not as simple. If you look at a lot of Sargent paintings, the lips almost look like they were punched in there, like they're just very quickly added in there. Which of course we know that it was intentional, like he wanted it to look that way. But you really don't need that much for the lips to work. And this is much harder in comparison because the photo reference just is awful. Like every photo reference. I mean, you can look at you can take a screenshot of like a high quality Marvel movie, and still like the cheeks are like almost flat. Like there's nothing there. Even if you're watching it, even if you've got a picture in like 4K or something, it's never going to be like looking at a real person. Yeah, the angle was huge. I'm glad you liked to witness that, Jim. So I didn't oil out the cheek like I did with the nose. I don't really think I had to, because everything is going to be pretty much opaque. So when I oil things out, it's because it's going to be more transparent. If I don't oil it out, it's going to be more opaque. The cheek area is just all kinds of complicated. I can't emphasize that enough. This may look very simple and flat on the reference, but believe me, that this is even harder than the eyes sometimes to paint. It's a pain in the brush sometimes to paint it. That's a little shadow from the hair. Now, to be honest, I probably shouldn't even be using Sables. I'm gonna switch back to a synthetic. Not a synthetic, what am I talking about? I'm getting tired, it's almost that time. So I'm switching to a bristle. I'm very carefully trying to follow these planes. Pushing the contrast between these planes is the goal. And then just merging them together. Hey Minnow, how big is the reference photo? I'm not sure how many pixels it is. Let me see. I'll probably click onto it with my computer. Oh. Yeah. I always have trouble finding the actual picture. I tend to take a screenshot as I go. Okay. So I use a Canon T7i to take the pictures. It is 7.5 megabytes. Let's see. The dimensions 4,000 by 6,000. I think that's pixels, I'm not sure. Yeah, 7.5 megabytes. Not that tiny of an image. You mean the size in inches? Oh, I don't know. On the screen? Yeah, it's on my screen. It's on my TV screen. So, yeah, on my TV screen, it's probably about like, I don't know, like 10 feet. But it's also further away from me. So if you look at the palette camera, I'm gonna move the palette camera. So the reference is on a TV screen. So I'm looking here and then over here. Yeah, you never want to like have a screen like right in front of your face. And if you can get a high quality printout, that's actually better for your eyes to look at. It may not be better for color, but at least it's probably better for your eyes. But I always try to keep myself pretty far away from the TV screen. Alright, so here I'm kind of frozen. Like there's a lot of stuff. You have no problem, Minnow. Alright, help me out, everyone. When I get to this stage in a painting, I did predict that I would have less people interested here. So, it seems like my predictions came true. So, I think this stream is probably the least popular of all of these. However, I still want to continue doing this because many of you do have an interest in watching how I continue to build this painting, so I will continue it. It's just help me out. Like if you know anyone that is interested in watching these kind of streams, let them know. So Montana, you struggle with lips and often takes you a lot of time to get the expression correct. Expression is a very fine detailed thing. Like we're doing detailed stuff today, but that's like a finishing kind of thing. Unless they have a very vivid expression, like if they're smiling or laughing or something, then that's a different story. Those paintings don't often work well for in a classical setting, like a smiling painting. There's like one super famous like old master painting where the model is like laughing and pointing at something, and it has turned into a meme. I can't quite remember the name of the painting, but if you look up like a oil painting meme, it'll probably show up. Quote, I would like to paint the way birds sing, from Monet. Thanks for sharing that quote, David. You've been clipping your phone onto your easel. I mean, I'm sure that'll be fine as long as you don't drop your phone. Just don't look at it too closely. Alright, so now I'm going to try to merge these planes together. Not easy. With this model in particular, her cheekbones drive me crazy. They're not friendly to paint. Yeah, I wish I had a quality printer too. And that's one of the biggest problems with photo references is not only is it distorted when it's photographed, but it's distorted again when it's printed. So, and it's also distorted by your screen. So it goes through so many distortions. Oh, you like the quote, her cheekbone drives me crazy. It does, it's just, it's flat up here, right? It's very flat. Then it curves ever so suddenly there for this plane. So it's flat, which I think I've got. Curves here, it goes straight. And here it tapers down, obviously not as much as I have it. Okay, it goes tapers down. And then it stops right over here. And it picks up more light down here. And then it decides to have more light over here. And then taper in again over there. It's just crazy. Just nuts. Like it's not simple. But I mean, everyone's cheekbones are different, right? It's the expression that we all have. I don't mean by facial expression, but just we're all just different. Always balance your paintings from references with paintings from life and studies of old master paintings. Obviously those have to be from pictures, unless you can go to museums and paint them there. Always balance your portraits from pictures with portraits from life. The more and more you only paint from pictures, the more and more you will pick up habits that you must pick up because there's missing information in the pictures, such as a dark shadow there with no color. That's what it looks like in the reference. But in nature, that's not what it is. So you can paint from references, it's fine, just balance it with painting from life as much as you can. Alright, so we're going to work on this plane right above the mandible, make it a little more smooth, and leave it a little more flat. So next time I'll be able to come back and basically do the same thing again, work with these planes until I get them as close as I can possibly get them. If anything, what I should do, which I'm going to do, is I'm going to fuzz this out. The last thing I want to do is let this dry in a really weird stage. I mean, it doesn't matter, I'm going to paint over it anyway, but it would just be hard to look at this throughout the week. Or I guess we're going to work on this again on Thursday, so it's going to be weird to look at this for the next couple of days. Like leaving it awkward like that. Alright, so everyone, next time we do this, which will be on Thursday, around 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to be more specific, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I want everyone to have some questions ready for the stream, questions that you think everyone would be interested in talking about, and educational conversation that's art related. So help me out, make sure that you have some fun and interesting questions, or some quotes. Look up some quotes from other artists. That way we can make these streams more engaging for everyone else, and for yourself, of course. So I'm going to turn the painting, since it is 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, and I must rest. I'm sure everyone wants to rest as well. Okay, so now you're seeing it with less distortion, though it's definitely glaring a lot. You can see the difference between the areas that I painted on and the areas I left alone. So look at how light this looks. And that's because that has sunken in. That happens. The oil gets absorbed into the linen. This has sunken in. It looks lighter, but it's not like that. So it's just all sunken in. The next time we work on it, we'll add some medium to it again. So let's see if there's any last minute questions. Thanks for watching Montana, Minnow, Barbara, Jim, Leonie. Let's just see if there's any questions. Gonna hang out for just a minute or so. Well, thank you, Stephanie. Thanks, Ellen, as always. Well, thank you, Apridi, or Apridi, I think. I don't know how to read your thing, but thank you. Yep, see you Thursday, Maria. Thanks for watching. Dallas, do I do live streams every week? So currently, yeah, I'm doing live streams every Tuesday and Thursday around 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To be more specific, usually around 7:15 p.m. till 9 p.m. Okay, so it looks like we don't have any extra questions. So once again, if you really enjoyed this stream and you enjoy the painting content on my YouTube channel and you want to take your education, your art education with me further, please check out my online classes on patreon.com/upariartist. Also posted in the comment section of this video and the description section of this video. Remember, the online classes start at just $10 a month. Gets you access to all the class projects and access to the virtual classroom video where I give students feedback on a weekly basis on their ongoing art projects. So, wish you all the very best in all of your artwork, and I'll see you on the next one.